We're back a little bit of against the grain. Something that's pretty passionate to us has been the weight room and kind of, getting stronger. That was always huge for us. And John and I talk about it a lot, kind of where we could have been potentially as athletes had we trained a little bit differently and understood that, the weight room wasn't everything. Definitely important, but not everything.
Yeah, I mean that was back in the day. That was the way to be a better athlete. You hit the weight room, you drank the protein shakes, took your creatine, but with everything else, it's adapt. We've adapted over time of what true sports performance training looks like, and I think the misconception out there is a quality program or a quality system or whatever you want to call it is, well, they're going to get me, they're going to make me stronger. And as we know, strength is important, but a true program and system is so much more than that from the moment when you step in to by the time you retest. So there's a big misconception out there that we just want to get a little bit further detail, talk about our past and how we went about it and what we learned from that, knowing now what we know.
Well, I think you make a great point. I don't think any of that's wrong necessarily, right? You do want to get stronger. You do want to drink your shakes, get your protein or get your creatine in, but it's also like, okay, that's one piece of this pie of development, okay? And understanding now, like John said, the industry's kind of adapted. It's one of those where it's like, we have to continue to understand how movement affects performance, how producing force fast, rate of force development impacts performance. And because these two are just as important as these. We've seen all the guys that are weight room warriors, but they're not that great at their sport. So it's like, well, if it was
where we went to high school, for instance, each year we would be top 3 in the state weightlifting meet
every year. But
then we're going 1-9, 2-8 in football.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, we're super strong. We're super durable. It didn't have any injuries, but the reason is because we could not move out there. We were stuck, basically concrete on our feet, and we just, we got out-athleted. And that just shows up time and time again. And I think the misconception, too, is that each athlete always needs to make sure they're getting stronger. And there is Gannon knows, but there is a point. But certain athletes, like you take a Torres Finney, like his main focus is not going to be, all right, we got to get this guy stronger. He kind of checks that box already. There's obviously you got to keep that, make them durable, make sure that they're staying up. But a big thing is like conditioning. We got to make sure that dude's conditioned the right way. We got to make sure he's able to take that power and do it over and over and over again. And there's so many different type of sports and athletes that we see that with, where a true assessment and true goal setting is so important.
Yeah, that's where the assessment and kind of the needs analysis is. You take the athlete, all right, how's your weight room? If a kid comes in and tells me he squats 225, benches 155, well, that bucket has not been filled of strength. We got to get you stronger, right? Now, we definitely want to build on top of good patterns. You don't want him. I see so many kids that come in and their body weight squat is horrendous. They can't get in a split squat. They have no space to work with. And then they get a bar thrown on their back and a coach red in the face yelling, parallel all the way to the ground, and these kids physically cannot do it. Like, they just can't find it. They just keep spreading the feet wider. Next thing, you have bad patterns built up. So in that case, do I think they're going to get a ton of transfer to their sport from that? Probably not, right? They're going to see some nervous system development. They're going to get a little bit stronger, but what do we got this kid in a really good looking squat? Then we built on top of good functional patterns. And I think that's kind of where we separate ourselves here. We work to the needs of the athlete. And we meet them where they're at as we try to progress maybe to a full depth squat.
Well, I think a big thing is too that we do that I've always thought we've done pretty well is that we look at the athlete as a whole, and we just don't look at, all right, you play football, all right, you obviously need to get stronger, you're playing football, it's physical, all right, you play baseball, you need to be able to rotate. It's like, no, each athlete is built differently from the inside out. So understanding that has been the biggest thing. I know for me, it was massive. We talk about all the time, if we could have had the training that we provide here, 15 years ago now, which is scary to say.
Like that now.
Yeah. Then, what might have changed? Would I have been an SEC type athlete? Probably not. maybe not. You never know. But the things that I needed, there was just not really a good way to do it. But I could squat the house. I could power clean.
Yeah.
I was powerful. I was doing all these things. But my problem was like, all right, this guy isn't strong enough to produce force. I produce force really well. But my problem was getting in the position to actually get the most out of it was just not there because I was stuck in this certain position. People used to talk about corn cob stuck up my butt. I was so pushed forward, I literally walked on my tippy toes almost. So over time, that caused a lot of back issues that I've had to work on, getting that pelvis pulled back and understanding that part of it. And I don't deal with those issues quite as bad anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you are a prime example. Like, I'm boosting him a little bit. John squatted mid fives, bench near 4, clean. 330. It's like, all right, what's our 40 time?
Yeah.
I mean, he would have fought me had I timed your 40 in here.
I know.
On the lasers.
I would have burned this whole building down.
Right. What? So, but once again, like John said, understanding, yes, the weight room's good. And John had the platform to be even faster, and his game speed was still solid, but it's about finding projection angles.
Yeah.
It's about getting hip extension. It's about producing force fast. It's about having the elastic qualities. And guys, all those things are really hard to find in the weight room. Like, you can't find those in the weight room necessarily. Those are developed skills. Sprinting is a skill in itself, right? That's why there's track coaches. That's why they go spend time and they just sprint. So understanding that is super important, that if you're really trying to maximize athletic development, let's fill the bucket of strength. Now let's produce it fast, okay, on good angles, with good movement, okay? And then let's actually develop skill. Let's play some games. Let's become athletes.
Yeah.
And that's where John's talking about, like, the whole development process. It's not just strength. It's not just go run speed work. It's not just go do skill work. You have to be able to blend and mesh all this. And it's a challenging thing to do. You see kids who overtrain and they get with a trainer or somebody and they're just burying them into the ground, not even asking what they did at school or anything like that. And it's like, when you're like in the private sector, you got to play that second fiddle role to what they're doing outside of here.
The biggest question I always get when I'm talking to parents or just athletes in general is like, okay, well, is this small group training or is this one-on-one? And what you have to understand is the biggest reasons we do small group training compared to a one-on-one setting is, even at 33, if I'm one-on-one with a 14-year-old and we need to do some reaction-based type training stuff, like, I'm not going to be able to produce the same way an additional 14, 15, 16-year-old is going to be able to produce that type competition. So most of the time when you're one-on-one, it's basically just based off you, and you're either probably under a bar or you're doing a box jump. You're doing just very
non-stimulus based exercises.
And that's not going to drive the needle. You'll get stronger, no doubt. Like, I genuinely believe you can get with most people, and as long as you're consistent.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real. Getting strong is like the easiest
That's the bottom of the barrel
on the planet. Now, we're not talking about like powerlifting, world record setting.
Yeah.
But getting pretty strong to play your sport, like John said, show up consistently, work to technical failure, progress that over time, eat enough calories and sleep. Like, you're going to get stronger. And people think they're geniuses when they take a 15-year-old who's never squatted and they put 60 pounds on their squat. And it's like...
Or they take a 13-year-old and they start actually, or maybe not 13, but 14, who hasn't really hit that puberty stage, and they hit maturity. And, see, they put it 60 pounds. It's like, all right, what's that funny thing? He's like, coaches out there be boosting... we added 70 pounds to our squat as a team, then go 1-9. That was literally us at Dade County, know, and we didn't know the stuff, so I'm not throwing any shade.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is there's prime examples of teams that are really strong and kids and athletes that are really strong that just don't produce on the field because there's not enough wholeness within that athlete. And I think that's the biggest thing that parents, athletes, it works on the reverse side too. We were talking about, there's speed coaches out there. There's footwork gurus. There's DB specialists. Why this, and this. And there's a place for all that. But a true program, especially on the physical development side, I mean, I thoroughly believe that you need to have the right amount and the right portion of a lot of that.
For sure, yeah. Because once again, like, when we start looking at stress, anything you do is a stressor. The weight room's a stressor. Sprinting, highly stressful. Going to do skill work for an hour straight, highly stressful, right? And then you start building these stressors. You're going to a strength coach, you're going to speed and agility, you're going to a skill guy, you're doing all these different tiers, and then it's like, all right, when do we recover?
Well, not as that. Even in those tiers, I highly doubt that all three of those different coaches or specialists or whatever are working together saying, hey, coach, what'd you do with him today? Okay, well, I'm going to, if you went high CNS work, then I'm going to, maybe start on the starts or whatever, however they do it. But that's the thing, like, so being able to go somewhere it's in-house and understand, like, hey, I'm going to start with assessment. They're going to look at me and they're going to do multiple tests, multiple screenings, movement and on the turf, performance-wise. And then they're going to develop a program based off my goals, and then being able to have the facility and the equipment needed.
Yeah.
Plus, hey, you know what? We're going to retest to make sure we're heading the right direction. If we're not, all right, well, we need to look at. But if we are, okay, we've hit this phase. This is the phase 2. So it's always building. It's never going to be a quick fix type thing. And I think, unfortunately, there's too many coaches in this industry that are selling that one-time quick fix, like get you in here, get you strong. Oh yeah, I got you strong. You're going to go perform better. And that's just not true.
Yeah, you don't see many coaches pulling out the lasers consistently.
No.
Right? Because it's like, well, you can't finagle the lasers. It's like, I can finagle a stopwatch. So it's like, pulling those out, man, just like you said, showing the true development. Because if we're not getting the results we're looking for, we are going to pivot and figure out what we're doing. And that's a big part too. Like, what are you doing at school?
Yeah.
Like, how many days a week are y'all doing sprint work? If you are, great. Like, maybe 1 day a week here, maybe 2 days, great. It's like, what are you guys doing? Are y'all not doing sprint work? Great. When's your heavy leg day? Here's the best day for you to sprint. So it's like, that's where we come in and make out that we draw this plan out of development. It's a lot more than just, oh, hey, we got speed today. I mean, if you came in and you just ripped heavy squats and you're taxed, we're not doing speed that day, and it's fine. We own that. That's the great part about small group. We can make those decisions
within there.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why we don't call our coaches strength coaches, because that's not what we are. We call them performance specialists, because true sports performance is not just strength. It's not just speed. It's not just agility. It's not just movement. It's everything put together. It's understanding, hey, dude, how much you sleep? How much sleep you get last night? Oh, I got 4 hours. Okay, well, you just screwed the day for anything, high CNS. Or if it's like, hey, how much you been eating? Well, a lot. And then you jump on the scale, you've lost 2 pounds. It's like, you guys haven't eaten enough. How much you been hydrating? I drank a bottle of water before I came in. And you start cramping or, just feeling sluggish. It's like, you got to have somebody holding you accountable on all those assets, on all those different things that truly make up what being an elite athlete looks like, to be able to actually perform like an elite athlete.
For sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much our TED Talk, as far as just the difference between strength and one individual aspect of training compared to what a full program looks like. We don't put this stuff out here as shade, but more as awareness for athletes to understand, like, hey, there's places out there, not just us, other really high level places out there that you can get a true program on, that don't sell yourself short, trying to save a buck, or, well, this is my cousin's best friend, when, your time, your money, your parents' money, it all matters, and it shouldn't be wasted.